Hey, Brett. Rich Hoffman, The Athletic Philadelphia over here. It's probably hard to sum up now, but when you see Joel just in tears walking off the court, what goes through your mind?
That it's going to be a life memory that, as painful as it feels now, it'll help him. It'll help shape his career. It'll help give him greater clarity of what this time of the year represents. All the stuff that has to accrue over many months that will equal the ability to one day be a champion. It's hard. It's hard to be the last man standing. And to see him have the emotion that he has, and he's one of many in that locker room, it is painful for all of us. But to your question with Joel, he'll look in the rearview mirror and remember this. He will come out better and smarter and stronger and more aware of really what it takes to play longer than we've been able to play.
Brett, Dave McMenamin, ESPN, in front of you here. What do you think you guys accomplished over the last two rounds of the playoffs, and how should that be considered moving forward as this team looks to the future?
I mean, I think the group incrementally, as I said at the in the beginning before we played, has slowly come together. Somebody asked me if it was a game that sort of defined us, and I believe my answer was like a bunch of instances that added up that you felt like we were pointing in the right direction. I think our starting group is as talented as any in the NBA. In our bench, we tried to uncover some things with James that I think gave us serviceable minutes. I'm such a fan of Mike Scott and his toughness, etc. We experimented with different five men, from Amir to Boban to Greg, trying to figure that out. But I think moving forward, you try to hold on to as much of it as you can, and it's not my area. Elton will be great at this, and I'm sure a large portion of the challenge and the planning is going to be how do you just sort of grow the bench and hold on to as much of that as you can, the starters as you can.
Coach Sopan Deb from the New York Times. Two questions. The first of which is that you essentially had three different versions of the team this year. Do you think that if you had more time with that final version, the results might have been different? And secondly, there's been a lot of speculation about your future. I wonder if you've, in the last couple of weeks, had any conversations. Has anyone told you anything about what your future might look like with the organization?
Stuff like that, we've talked internally a lot. The club can respond to that. As it relates to, what was the first part of your question?
Just about the final version of the team, as in the third version of the starting lineup.
I thought they were great. I thought that they ended the season playing good basketball. I thought that they came together from a chemistry standpoint in a real sort of expedited way. That surprised me because there's some firepower there. I think that they coexisted well. There were sacrifices made all over the place. Ben as an example, we ended up really playing a lot of middle pick and roll with Jimmy as one example. And I was proud of the way the guys came together.
Brett, now that the series is finished, I want to just ask about Ben and what you saw from him this series. He went up against Kawhi for 7 games, and we saw in the first half as Kawhi was jacking up all these shots, Ben was in his back pocket and contesting. Can you just speak about the growth of him over these past 7 games, and especially the lessons he'll take about battling someone like Kawhi?
I mean, it's a little bit of a similar answer that I gave with Joel Embiid. At 22 years old, I think that we've seen growth in Ben in the course of these 2 playoff rounds. To have the responsibility to go have to defend Kawhi Leonard, especially in the mood and the mindset that Kawhi was in. He took, 39 shots. Wow. And we give him credit, in some of the shots that Kawhi made. You shake his hand. Other bits, you wish schematically we were a little bit better, but I think Ben's defensive effort and commitment to trying to guard Kawhi Leonard will serve him well. It too will be a memory, I'm certain, that will help better shape his his approach, his understanding of playoff basketball.
Right, Sarah Todd, Philadelphia Inquirer. I know that there's probably some larger viewpoints that matter more right now, but if you look at granularly just this game, how disappointing was that they out-rebounded you, especially on the offensive end tonight?
Yeah, I mean the two things that will, you'll think about all summer is that's one of them, and we'll go back and look at it where we could have done better on that. And, there were some dry possessions at the end that we put Jimmy in the middle pick and roll. We did some things. JJ had that big bucket, that three prior. But there was probably two for sure, three, if I remember correctly, that, you needed to get a shot. And I give Toronto credit. They were switching a lot. They were able to keep us in front of them. But those two areas, to me, Sarah, are what I'll be curious to go back and look at the tape and remember as I sit here, 15 minutes after the game has ended.
Brett, Louis Satzman, Raptors Republic. We might be burying the lead here, but that last shot was on the rim for maybe a lifetime. Do you remember anything you were thinking while that was in the air?
I really felt when it hit the rim that it was going to end up going in. It didn't surprise me that it went in. When it hits at that angle and goes kind of straight up, you feel like there is a chance it's actually going to go in. And when it went up, not to pretend like you can forecast anything, it didn't surprise me that it ended up falling in. It did seem like it was up there for a while. But with the way he missed and the bounce of the ball and the fact that it did go straight up and not, go to the right or the left, it's a tough way to lose. That's a hell of a win. That's a tough shot. And what a tremendous series.
Brett, could you just elaborate a little bit more on where you see the reasons for promise and the trajectory of this team that you were talking about?
I mean, if you just go back, just follow our time in Philadelphia, we won 10 games. We've been through a handful of general managers. We've been through different ping pong balls and draft picks. And now you fast forward, we won back-to-back 50-game seasons. We came to a game 7. I think the large majority of this room, didn't really give us a chance. And I'm not throwing that back at you. It's just the way it works. Like, we really weren't given too much of a chance against Toronto. There's lots to be proud of. We got 2 All-Stars that are very young. I think that the culture, the foundation of how we try to work and do things is on point. I'm proud of what we've built. And so now to take that next step, that is the mission, that is the challenge. But I feel like even with the disappointment that I sit here with, I know all the stuff in the background that has gone on. And I'm proud of it. Marcus.
Brett, as you think about what happened in the fourth quarter and how the game began, is there anything that you would have done differently? Any things that you would have changed as far as matchups or whatever?
As I sit here, I don't think so. I really don't. One of the drive possessions, could you have posted Joel? Maybe. They were coming at him. I thought Joel in the first half did a really good job of just inviting the double teams. And we went to Joe really not thinking he was going to score. We went to Joe so that he could try to pick apart their rotations. They came after him a lot of times on the catch. And so, maybe, you could have got Joe the ball and baited that double team again. I wanted to play with a spread court. But really, Marcus, when I look at it, did you have the right people on the floor? Did you have the right matchups? Mightn't you have tried to stalk Kawhi down more and double team? Maybe. But the fact is it took that shot to end our season. I think when I go back and look at it as we will, I could give you a lot better answers. But on first glance, I don't think so.
Hey, Coach Ryan McNeil, Ice Unfiltered. After JJ had that and one with 3.5 minutes left, you only had one made field goal from Jimmy Butler.
Say that, what was JJ?
After JJ had that and one with 3.5 minutes left, you had one made field goal by Jimmy Butler in the final, 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah.
What did you see from Toronto's defense in those last 4 or so minutes?
Tenacious, tough, switching. 1 through 5 was a switch group. You know, we had a hard time turning the corner. I thought we passed up a few shots that we could have shot, and the clock evaporated. I thought we tried to, maybe get a little bit too greedy, but I do give Toronto credit, and it was either 2 or 3 possessions that I mentioned a moment ago that I look forward to seeing again. But I give Toronto credit for a tenacious switching defense, and we had a hard time turning the corner once they did switch. Thank you.
All right, well, that's Brett Brown. As there is obviously incredible adulation on one end, there is the other side of the coin here for Philadelphia. And we'll hear more from Nick Nurse, who momentarily will be at the podium. We'll hear from players. We hope to hear from Kawhi. He did make the loudest statement of anyone tonight with the game-winning shot. But let's address what is at stake here for Philadelphia, who Elton Brand guys went all in this year, traded away a lot of assets, traded away the potential of a lot of cap space this summer with free agents like Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris, who are going to need to be paid this summer if indeed they want to keep him. And the talk about Brett Brown's future, it's been all over the local news over the last couple of weeks. If Philadelphia doesn't get out of this round, they may be looking for a new head coach. Do you believe Brett Brown should be on the hot seat?
Well, I think he will be on the hot seat. It's been talked about throughout this entire playoffs, and everybody said there's been headlines on all their papers. And I think it's going to come down to the organization and management. What do they think, and who do they have somebody else to come in? Because it's all about not the regular season for the Philadelphia 76ers. They didn't have a bad regular season. Whether they had a good or bad, it was about getting into the postseason. And I thought they needed to at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals so they would quiet all the noise. Now, he might not get fired now, but there should be some changes somewhere with the Philadelphia 76ers organization.
Yeah, I think they went all in this season. And I don't know where did he get that narrative where he said they wasn't expected.
He said we weren't given too much of a chance against Toronto.
Yeah, on paper, I think the second that you acquire Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler, everyone, just on paper alone, everybody expected you guys to be in the finals.
Right.
And I think that was the expectations in the city. You traded away the future. You had Shamet, Markelle Fultz, Covington, Saric, all those guys. And look, I think it really boils down to this. And you're probably not going to like this, but it came down to coaching. And I feel like Nick Nurse did an excellent job of making the necessary adjustments. Numerous times down the stretch of this ball game, he was calling timeouts, and the execution was great. Even down to the wire, the last shot with Kawhi Leonard, isolation play to get the basketball. And then the play before that, the 76ers had an opportunity to draw up something, and you had Joel Embiid. They've been in the bonus since the 3:29 mark in the fourth quarter. And he's out there on the perimeter. Their 4 best players is out there on the perimeter. Ben Simmons is living in the post as a traditional 5 or a 4-man. It was just like, what? You can't draw that up, and you pretty much got nothing out of it.
What more would you have wanted to see from Brett Brown in this series?
I would have loved to see adjustments, because he said exactly what I needed him to say. We saw switches, and we saw that they kept us in front of them. Well, that's the problem. Don't stay in front of them. Joel Embiid needs to be in the post. Shaq said it. So many guys. Look, the game just says it. You can go to your local YMCA. I'm 6'7". If I got a 5'10" guy on me, I'm not living on the post on the perimeter. I'm gonna immediately go to a spot where he's gonna have to wrap me up, and I'm gonna be able to be aggressive. And with 3:29 left in the ball game, we're in the bonus. I'm gonna impose my will on the situation. Now you got him living on the perimeter and stuff like that happen. And then you get a turnover, and then you deal with the long walk of shame to the locker room and the emotional outlet.
Yeah, and also for me is not only did Joel Embiid has to control this game from being out on the block. I don't want to see him shooting all those threes. A couple of them when you're wide open, but time to score means a lot. There was a lot of times for me, Jared and Karan, watching that game. Ben Simmons was guarded by Kyle Lowry. Never had a play where he dives him into the post. Ben's a pretty good passer. Ben's 6'10", Kyle Lowry's 6 feet. That's 10 inches. Yes, and then today, Ben Simmons was knocking down his free throws. Whether he's knocking down his free throws or not, I don't run him down there in crunch time to get fouled. But throughout the meat of the game, can you go down there and get us in the bonus? And that bodes well for us down in crunch time because we're in a penalty earlier than usual. But you're getting away with guys 6'10", 7'1", 6'8", 6'8". If they're switching everything, somebody has to dive and get into the post and make a play in the mid-range. Now we're looking at everybody wants to play out that 3-point line.
And I look at the numbers of Kawhi Leonard. I look at it as elementary, but at some point, you got to get the ball out of his hand and make somebody else beat you for the course of a game, because he's proven that he can do that. And he probably averaged 35 plus, so that's just crazy.
All right, here's Nick Nurse, who in his first year as head coach of the Raptors is going to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Nick, Doug Smith from Town Star down to your right. I guess, what's going through your mind when that ball's bouncing on the rim for about 7 minutes?
Looks like it's going in. Looks like it was going in the whole time to me. I thought it was. But just, again, I thought it was, obviously, it's a nice lucky bounce, right? But I thought we were very unlucky for a lot of that game. So it came back to us a little bit, balanced out.
Kyle didn't seem to have the greatest scoring nights, but his contribution would have been as good as he's had all year, maybe, the way he played all night.
Yeah, I really was impressed with his defense, Doug. I thought he was being so alert and aggressive on his switch outs, right? You just, every time you saw an opening coming, there he was, taking it away, and then obviously had that huge steal. And I think we had back-to-back shot clock violations, and that was getting ready to be a third one, and he got to it just in the nick of time. So he played a lot of minutes. I think he played the whole second half, and he was great down the stretch defensively.
Go to Ryan on your left, Coach.
Hey, Coach, before the game we talked about defense and locking it in. The last 3.5 minutes, I think J.J. Redick had an and one opportunity. The only other field goal made by Philly was that Butler bucket in the last 4 or 5 seconds.
It was a big one.
Yeah, but the defense, what impressed you about your defense over the last 4 minutes?
Well, I mean, we just were doing it all, right? We were pressuring the ball. We were corralling the right guys for a split second with two. We were either rotating or hustling back to our own. So it wasn't, just because we put two on the ball, it didn't mean something was automatically open. And then we rebounded it after we contest. But, those possessions defensively were awesome. They had, again, a lot where they didn't even get a look at the basket.
I'll go to Bruce on your right here, Coach.
Nick, right here. Bruce Arthur from the Toronto Star. That last play, was it basically give Kawhi the ball at the top and let him try to create as he kind of did in Game 4?
Yeah, that's it. We run Kyle off there first as the first option, and then Kawhi loops under there and gets it at the top, and then it's his call from there what to do. We've seen that one a few times this year. Again, not sure he's made that exact shot. He's probably taken it 4 or 5 times, but balanced out again a little bit. I think he missed a couple of those along the way this season, that exact same play, similar shot. So it's good that the balancing scales were there tonight.
To Dave, down front near your left.
Dave McMenamin, ESPN. Nick, what's it been like for you to coach Kawhi Leonard this first year, and what have you seen from him as the stakes have gotten higher and higher in the playoffs?
Well, first of all, what it's been like to coach him, he's I'm sure I have along the line had a more attentive player, probably one of my walk-ons on one of the college teams I coached that was paying attention. But he's it's amazing to me that he's whether we're in the huddle or in the locker room or in the film room, he's always locked in on what the coaching staff is saying, and I think that is a interesting thing about him. Right, he's very coachable. He's focused and pays attention. So that's, I think that's a pretty big statement to say that. But then again, when you get to his play here in the playoffs, it's been at an elite level, right? I mean, determined level. And tonight, I thought he was awesome at both ends, and that's again, I think, his uniqueness. Not only can he get you 30. Right, and then anywhere upwards from that. But there's moments when he can just decide you're not scoring either, or I'm going to take it from you, or something like that. And I think that's a pretty amazing thing.
We'll go to Sopan in the back.
Hey, Coach Sopan Deb with the New York Times. I was wondering, there's been a lot made in recent years of the Raptors' lack of postseason success. What does this win mean for the franchise as a whole?
Listen, the most important thing is that this team is still playing, and I think there's still room for growth with this team, right? I've mentioned it a few times here during both these playoff series that I thought we played a very, very good, hot Orlando team, and if we get through, it would make us better. And this was a very, very good team with unbelievable offensive firepower, size, talent, and we obviously, hopefully, grew or are continuing to grow through advancing through this series. So that's what's most important to me. Again, I don't think the past has really anything to do with this team. I know it's always there for historical data and we need to compare and stuff, but I don't or won't or can't. All I really care about now is these guys enjoying this for a few hours tonight and then getting their game faces locked back in to prepare for the next round.
To John on your left there, Coach.
Nick, here, Sean Woodley, Raptors HQ. Serge Ibaka tonight, 29 minutes. You shortened the rotation down to 7. You played crunch time. What did you think of Serge's game tonight?
Well, he was obviously really big out there, right? He had a couple offensive putbacks. He rebounded. He was rim protecting. I'm not sure if he blocked any shots or not, but he was maybe altering a few, and he grabbed a few rebounds. And he was confident on offense. I thought he was. There was a stretch there when he was one of maybe the second most confident guy out there behind Kawhi. Right, it'd get kicked over to him, and he was just pulling it, or he was flying inside and catching a dump off, and he was finding a way to get it in. So. It was big. I think we talked about the size being an issue for us. I liked the look of that lineup. Kyle as kind of the floor general out there, and then a bunch of big guys. With Kawhi at the 2 and Pascal at the 3 and Serge at the 4 and Mark at the 5. And it didn't seem to cause us too many problems on the defensive end, especially. It was excellent. The offense was a little, I keep saying the same thing, a little out of rhythm and not shot makey enough. But obviously that lineup brought it home for the last 7-8 minutes of the game.
Oh, last couple questions. We'll go to Sarah on your right here, Coach.
Hi, Nick. Sarah Todd, Philadelphia Inquirer. Yesterday we talked a lot about how much rebounding was going to impact this game. Can you just speak about the team's offensive rebounding effort especially, and how big it was just in the last few minutes, too? You talked about a couple of those Surge's putbacks.
Yeah, we had a lot of offensive rebounds. There was a lot to get, right? There was a high volume of shots available to offensive rebound tonight. That's part of it. But again, I thought there was some great determination there. I thought even when they did secure them, it was a hard defensive rebound for them. And again, I think it's just a telling sign of how hard your team's playing, or how hard it is to get a stop, right? Even when the defensive rebound is super hard. So it was big for us.
To Ian, Coach, on your right there.
Hey, Coach, Ian Harrison, Associated Press. It's no secret what you're going to see in Milwaukee, but I imagine you may have been keeping one eye on them throughout the playoffs. What have you seen, and what do you expect in this upcoming series?
Well, it's a totally different style than we've just been through in our last 2 series, right? These were set play teams, pretty methodical in offense. They're going to come down and look at things and run some post ups and run stuff for their certain guys, and not to say Milwaukee doesn't do some of that too, but they'd much rather spread the floor, give it to a guy and put their head down and take it to the rim and put it in the rim. And if you send help, they're going to fire it out and they're going to shoot a ton of threes. So it's a little different style that we're going to see. We're going to have to adjust to that really quickly, obviously. We have to forget about how happy we are pretty quickly, because it's a hungry team. It's a very deep team, very good team. We're gonna have to, like I said, we're gonna have to continue to grow. We're gonna have to play better.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.